appreciate you guys having me on. It's nice to be with some other tall guys, for the
Hey
first
man, we're
time.
glad you we're glad you jumped on with us, man. Part of me every time I reach out now, and if I ask somebody about doing this, like Cleef, I know James reached out to Cleef. I'm one of those guys who's always like, man, he's probably going to say no. So
No,
we're
definitely.
glad
I
you jumped
appreciate
on.
the invite. It's nice to come over here and talk about training, man. What else is better, Talk about training,
Yeah,
bodybuilding.
absolutely.
Agreed.
So so Mike, I'm gonna try not to put any pressure on you, but you're the special guest, man. So it's gonna be
I
all
like
about
it. I
you.
like it.
I got some. I wrote down some like prompts and questions. It's not just geared to direct it at you. It's for everybody to think about. But you bring a very what I really like and appreciate. It's one of the things I wanted in a coach with Chris. You bring a perspective that is not just the typical, usual bodybuilding perspective. You have a clinical medical background. Um, and that's something I appreciate a lot. And I watch your videos, even though I don't reply to them all because there's a lot. I'm over here. I'm stealing, man. I'm stealing stuff. I'm like,
Appreciate it.
yes,
Appreciate it.
especially when you start putting in like, let's say, for example, when you did a video on the hack squat
Mhm.
and you mentioned putting the pad behind you and where you're directing that pressure now in order to keep the quads engaged, but also keep the load off of the joint itself, but more instead directed onto the targeted muscle. Things like that, I'm like, that is huge, man. Especially for and I hate to, I'm not trying to, segregate or separate us as tall guys versus short guys, but the lever thing is a big deal. It
Oh
makes a
yeah.
difference. Um, so I appreciate that. I know we had actually I talked about you on our first podcast. I dropped your name because I was like, oh man, we need to get Mike on here. We were talking about,
I did watch the podcast. I watched all three episodes, so
oh
I know
geez.
what's going on. You
Became a
guys are
number
good,
one
man.
fan.
You guys are very good. It seems like you'd be like 50 episodes in by now.
Oh man, no, dude, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I know the first episode it came up, we were talking spinal decompression at one point briefly. Um, and I remember you did a video, or you posted, maybe it wasn't a video, it was a picture of you doing that for cervical decompression. And I'm like, there aren't too many people who can speak to that intelligently, let alone have the experience doing it. Uh, and so, why don't we start with that question? The things that you have learned from, being a provider in the field that you're in, and how been a benefit to you or how you applied it to bodybuilding.
So I think what's kind of uniquely different about me is I started out as your typical absolute meathead. Like I was 13 years old in my basement, like on the bodybuilding.com forums, like just bullshitting about I didn't know what the hell I was talking about, just bullshitting with the guys on the forums, trying to learn every single thing I could about training and just being a friggin' meathead. Like I remember being in high school, like just eating sandwiches in every single class. I was just like, I just need protein. Like I didn't understand anything about it. Like I just need to eat protein. So I ate everything in sight and just lifted as much as I could. Obviously, in the beginning, it was more for football. That's really my background is, the athletic football background. And then as I started getting more and more into it, I just became obsessed with training, all the little nuances behind it. So I think what's unique about me is like I understand the scientific perspective, but I also understand like the meathead get after it perspective. And like training, I think too often nowadays people just look at the science of training, and really training is a science and art. And like sometimes the art is also lost. Like I'm probably not the most scientific person, but I try to be as scientific as possible. And I think a lot of times that art aspect is really important too. And I don't want that to ever get lost with people. So I
Yeah,
try to have that perspective a lot of times. That's kind of my, I guess, philosophy about bodybuilding and training in general is
yeah,
the mixture of the two. But to answer your question in terms of the height thing, the decompression thing. So I want you to think about the discs in between the bones, sort of like a dried up sponge. For some people, let's say you're in your teens or early 20s, that sponge is going to be a brand new sponge. It's going to be nice and open. When you start hack squatting, you start barbell squatting 400, 500, 600 pounds, of course, you're going to have a lot of compression of that spine over time. You play football, you do other things, you have other injuries, you're walking around at 250 plus pounds every day. Those discs over time are going to start to get a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. So that dried up sponge, or that nice plump sponge, now is kind of like a shitty sponge that's in the back of your cabinet that's dried up.
Yeah.
You can't ever make that sponge look like a brand new sponge again. But what you can do, you can hydrate that old shitty sponge and make it serviceable again. Yeah. So like that is kind of a good way and a good perspective for spinal decompression. So can you hydrate a disc? Yes. Will it permanently hydrate? Definitely not. You need to kind of continuously do it all the time. And it will only hydrate to some degree. So let's say let's say you're 6'2" and I don't know, 6/8, like you're almost at that 6'3". And then obviously, you're an enhanced athlete, you're trying to get really, really shredded, you're trying to get really dry for a show. Of course, some of that is going to come out from your disc. So it's going to be a little bit smaller. And that's how, I thought it was 6'3". No, sorry, you're, 6'2.5" this time. Yeah. And then when they measure themselves in the off season, I'm 6'3.25". And then showtime comes down and they're a little bit smaller. So I think spinal decompression can be used, but it has to be used consistently over time for sure.
Yeah.
To keep that disc space open.
That's awesome. That is, yeah. So, I mean, obviously that came up and that continues to come up because of all the controversy that happened with the Olympia and everything and the height and stuff. And it's like, when you hear about that and you hear someone say, well, I'm going to nail that height next time, you think to yourself, but how much can you really do to give yourself, an inch? That's a lot. That's a lot in terms of height. Unless you're going to China and you're getting that surgery, or they're going to, extend your femurs.
Like a medieval stretching.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
put them on a rack and you get a rope and just crank that thing.
You'll be paralyzed, but you'll make height.
Yeah.
So another important thing with this too is, I know a lot of people like to talk about the inversion table, right? Yeah. You just have it at home, you can lay backwards. It's good in general to kind of open the space, but the best way to actually hydrate the disc is you need an actual machine that pulls and holds for like 30 seconds, relaxes for 15, 30, 15, whatever, something along those lines. And it creates a negative pressure in the disc and will suck in moisture and blood and moisture. So you need an actual machine that pumps like that. If it's just open like this, yeah, you'll get a little bit, but not that much.
So we need a medieval torture device.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what? I'm just going to start flying into Jersey and scheduling appointments, man.
Hey, I have room.
So that's awesome. And it's, I think it's a good thing for, at least from a competitor standpoint, certainly in our division where height matters, because it's going to determine your weight cap, to think about it and understand it from at least that level of, hey, you might be thinking you're going to make height, but it isn't as simple as just, I've got an inversion table here, and you're right. I mean, the difference that made was not noticeable. It feels good. I like getting on it. But I don't know that I saw any appreciable, difference in terms of hiding in. And also to your point, as somebody who has to do this throughout the year because of the military, we have to do what we call body composition assessments before we do our physical fitness test. They height in, they use the old BMI math formula, which is terrible. I've never not been morbidly obese, according to the Navy. But yeah, I get my height done at least twice a year. So I'm like, I know my height. That height doesn't count if I'm not in prep.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that was that's good, man.
How much is your height more like during your fit checkups compared to when you check in for a show?
I was 6'3.25". Legitimately 6'3.25". They pushed that thing down on my head at on base at
And
the
is that
time.
less than, oh, that's at base?
Yeah. So when I heighted in for Texas, I was 6'3". When I heighted in for um, Pittsburgh, that was the second show. I was over six. I think it was 6'3 1/4.
Okay.
And it was again 6'3 1/4 at New York, and that was it. I didn't height in at Oklahoma because that was when the rule was first three, average
Yeah.
those. That's your height. Since we're on this, what do you think about the situation with our weigh-ins now? Do we know? Has anybody seen anything in terms of it's going to be height in at every single show? Is it
So
still kind of
so
nebulous?
so from what I saw, and again, this is all just based on what I saw, is the shows that happened after the Olympia. It seemed like they said if you were an Olympian, you were going to get rehydrated at the Olympia.
Mhm.
But I've also heard that folks who competed 3 times this year, they are that's their height now. But if you make it to the Olympia, you're getting heighted no matter what.
Got it.
That's what I heard. Because my,
Okay.
my card, if you go into like the IFBB
Yeah.
membership page, mine says 6'3.5" is
That's
what it
that's like
says.
mine. Yep, mine
Yeah.
says 6'3 1/4 on it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
when I renew this, is it going to change? Is it going to be
I'm
gone?
curious for 2026. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it only matters so much as in if you're kind of on the edge, and you're like,
Mhm.
well, what do we plan for? And it's kind of a metric that is helpful to know because I'm at the cap. I was at the cap already
Mhm.
for 6'3". So if it's 6'3 1/4, well, I want to add tissue to come in at, you know, 256 or whatever it is.
Yep.
So yeah. But moving on. I had some what I think are good ones. You guys can tell me. You can be like, man, that's garbage, bro. That's trash. Uh, how do you, so the question is, how do you define success um in in this sport where winning is it looks different than traditional sports, right? So for me, I'll just kick it off, I guess. For me, I'm winning just because I never planned on this, right? This happened by, um, I don't want to say by accident. It wasn't an accident. Obviously, I registered for the show, but I didn't think going into the Jay Cutler in 2023 that, all right, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go get my pro card, go to a national show, get my pro card and all that. I was just trying to see if I was going to like it. I loved the sport following it. And so when, the whole classic thing, I never thought this was a possibility. For me, it's been a success with each show, just because there's consistent progression. What do you guys define as success within bodybuilding?
Mike, you want to take that first?
I'll go for it. Yeah. So for me, I think it is something that can change over time. Personally, for me right now, it's do you get better every show? Like, is every single show better and better and better? Because like you can be at your worst that you've been in a few years and win a show, or you can be at your absolute best and get like second call out. So it's very hard to define like placings, of course, because it can just change all the time. And it's always hard explaining that to people that don't bodybuild when, after a show, they're like, oh, how'd you do? And you're like, oh, I did awesome, man. I was my absolute best. And like, what place did you get? And you're like, 10th. And they're like, oh, okay. Like they don't really get it. But to a true bodybuilder, it's just about improving every time. And I think you need to define like if you're a bodybuilder or if you're a competitor. Like a competitor only cares about the placings. Bodybuilder is just enjoying the process. And
Yeah.
at least for me, I just love the process of bodybuilding. Like I like the process of getting bigger and cutting down and seeing my body change and like the daily challenge. So I think that's for me, it's the process of bodybuilding that I love.
I like that. I'm stealing that. Competitor versus bodybuilder. That's good. What do you guys got?
Good, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much on the same page as you, Mike. Like, and you actually, Dom, because I'd never had really any expectations. I did a show the first time I ever did a show, and I think I got like second and open or something, and one of the gym owners I was putting on the show, he's like, "Hey, if you keep working at this, you can get a pro card." I'm like, "What?" Like, I didn't even really know much about bodybuilding, and then I took like a 5 year hiatus, came back, and eventually got the pro card. And then it's like I knew I wanted to get the pro card. That was like the end point. And then I was like, I'll just do a pro show because I don't want to be one of those guys that gets a pro card and never competes. And then I did a show. I had no expectation in Pittsburgh, didn't place or anything, but it was still a good, like my best look, I think. I put on some good size, and now it's just I don't really have any aspirations of like I wouldn't be disappointed if I never made it to the Olympia, for example. It would be awesome. I'm not saying I don't want to try to get to the Olympia, but like my goal is to just get better. I want to see if I can maximize my physique. I know I have more weight to get to my weight cap. I want to push the conditioning even further, and I just want to see myself get better. And like Mike said with the placings, like they don't really you can't use those as like a criteria of progress because for me, I did New York, Pittsburgh, and Dubai. I came in last call out in every single one of them. Now, I could look shittier next year and do a small show and come in first or second call out, and technically I did better, but that doesn't mean anything to me. I want to see that I fit like objectively improved. So it'd be
Yeah,
cool to, get to do a pose down, be a top 10 and all that stuff, but that's not a measure of success for me. It's more internal, I guess. I want to be better than the last time I stepped on stage.
I think just to that point, having, obviously having done what we've done 3 shows now together,
Yeah.
uh, having seen you at each one, the
hmm
progress is freaking obvious, like super obvious. From Universe to New York, it was a difference, clearly.
Yeah.
Seeing the videos of you at Dubai, you were way harder, dude. That was,
Condition was night and day. Yeah.
yeah.
Dom, and I got you on seeing Joe earlier than that.
You
I
did.
saw
Oh,
Joe 2022 Nationals,
Yeah. The
oh,
one time I
and
beat James.
yeah, I saw Joe. I saw Joe at 22 Nationals, and it's
Yeah.
nice.
night and day difference from
Yeah.
Dubai to back then. I mean, Joe just he completely changed.
Yeah. Yeah. So
How
that's
about
the goal. You just get better.
what do you got, James? What do you think?
I got a pretty long-winded answer here, so try to follow with me here. It's a subjective thing, success, and what I mean by that is because I'm going off of a lot of what you guys said, right? And what I mean by that is the first thing is it's subjective in that um, a lot of these famous bodybuilders, these well-known bodybuilders, some of them aren't quote unquote successful. They're not winning shows, but they're well known, right?
Mhm.
So let me throw some names out there. Flex Wheeler. I just saw Flex the other day. He never won the Olympia, ever, but he's one of the best bodybuilders of all time, right? I'll throw a recent one here. Sadiq Hadzovic. He hasn't really won anything in how many years, how long, but
hmm
he's still a well-known bodybuilder. He has done a lot of great things in his career, but just throw some names out there. Like you can throw some names around like Lee Priest. He never won, but he's well known. Like so what is it? What is success in bodybuilding? Do you have to win the Olympia? Do you have to win a pro show like a huge show? Like what's the gauge there, right? Like being successful in bodybuilding now is a lot different than it was before. At, Back then, they didn't have social media. Right now, it's like all of this stuff. It's different. So, any thoughts on that?
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I mean, winning is definitely not everything. We kind of said that, but I hadn't thought of it in that vein where you're giving examples of Flex Wheeler, for example. Yeah.
I mean, Kevin Levrone,
Yeah.
one of my favorites. He might be
Yep.
my favorite. He got second at the Olympia like 4 times. It's like insane.
Yeah.
And Sean Ray, like a lot of these guys that like probably should have won the Olympia just happened to compete in the era of Ronnie Coleman,
hmm
Dorian Yates, like these dominant guys that just were not good. It was not going to happen for them.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
are those guys not successful because they didn't beat Ronnie Coleman?
Yeah. The best of all time.
We're
Yeah.
talking about the greatest, so I just think it's subjective
Yeah.
anymore. Um, and then, like you guys were saying earlier, I think it's personal to you, right? So success to Joe might be completely different than success to Mike
Hmm.
based on their experiences, how they came up, what they wanted to accomplish in this thing. Like it's subjective and personal too. Like because like you guys, some of you guys were saying, like, I did not plan to do this, right? And I just ended up being good at it. And then in my vein, I wanted to do this. And I had that pressure of like, I got to get this, I got to do this.
Hmm.
So success is different than to different people, right? Like based on your upbringing and like what you wanted to do with this whole thing. Like Dom, I don't think you planned on this happening with you either. I mean, we all got different careers, right?
Yeah. Oh
Hmm.
yeah. This was
Mike played professional football.
yeah.
Like, Dom's in the freaking military.
Yeah.
Me and Joe got careers. Like
Yeah.
this wasn't like the original plan, right?
I mean, I picked up bodybuilding because I got sick of getting hurt mountain biking and dirt biking. And I
Yeah.
was like, I need something to do, so I'm not going home and doing nothing after work every day.
Yeah.
Might as well lift weights. That seems safer.
Yeah. For some of us.
Yeah.
Uh
And and then it like evolves, like it evolves too. Like what success was back then might be different than it is now,
Yeah.
right? Because when we were amateurs, it was like, hey, getting a pro card is success.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, what does success mean now that we're in the pro league? Does that mean winning a show? Does
Hmm.
that mean going to the Olympia? Does that mean getting invited to the Arnold? Like, what is it? Right?
Yeah.
There's so many different things. Like it evolves. And I would say the biggest thing for me now is staying neutral in the approach because before it was like you have the pressure of not being wrong, or I'm
Hmm.
sorry, like the fear of not being wrong, and then the pressure of winning. Like I have to win. And now it's like stay neutral and don't do either one of those things. Because if you have those fears of either one, it's going to mess up your plans and
Hmm.
your performance. So just stay neutral, stay focused on what's in front of your face, and just do that. And
Hmm.
then you're going to figure it out. Things will come how they're supposed to come, but don't have that fear or that pressure one way or the other. So now it's completely different now than it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all small fish in a big pond now. So, like, putting that kind of pressure on yourself is just, it's not going to do you any good. It's not like you're Terrence fighting for the Olympia and, like, you got sponsors weighing on your back. You got to do well. Like, so for me, it's more just about getting better. And I did get a nice piece of success today. I went down to Bev's today, and Big Steve told me I looked huge. So if
Compliment.
I
that's
can retire now.
that is yeah, that's a good one. That's a win
Yeah,
for sure.
that was a win.
Um so yeah, I don't want to beat that horse to death, but that is a good point. It is success is absolutely subjective.
Hmm.
In bodybuilding, outside of bodybuilding, 100%. There's a ton of stories that flooded my head when you said that. From my career path standpoint to even to this. And I think, yeah, I think you all kind of summed it up. I really like what Mike said about it's the progression, right? That progress. And I think a lot of the pros, even now, you'll hear guys talk about, when is it time? Okay, perfect example. William Bonet, right? How many people were like, well, I guess it's getting time for him to hang it up. And then he came back and he fixed his
Hmm.
legs came back. It's like he's not winning the Olympia, but he is still progressing. So why hang it up? He's still,
Longevity is an aspect of success, right?
yes. Yep. So yeah, I think for me, I think the shortest answer, the most concise way to capture it, without covering everything in depth is I agree. I like seeing the change. I like seeing the progress. It happened tonight. I almost messaged Chris. I don't like to message him because I don't want to. He's super busy. But I was in the shower. I'm looking at my legs. I'm like, my, my quads are bigger. I don't remember that femoris sticking out like this. So Yeah, it's those things that I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to keep doing
Yeah.
this. This is awesome.
I was getting out of my truck the other day and like I had left the truck on, so like the seat normally like slides back when you turn it off. So
Yeah.
I got out with when it didn't slide out and my leg got stuck under the steering wheel and I was like, "Yes." That's never happened before.
Or when you go through like four pairs of jeans since your last
Yeah.
show because you keep ripping out the crotch.
Yep.
Oh man.
I have that right now. It's bad.
So, that you mentioned you said something about, injuries or not, after BMX and dirt biking.
Yeah.
I was the guy. I don't know if anybody else has had any significant injuries, but I tore my right bicep off the bone. Right? I had a distal biceps tendon rupture coming out of military training, going into another training for flight school. I went to the gym doing preacher curls. I was warmed up. It was fourth set in, and I'll never. It felt like a donkey like kicked me in the arm. But that wasn't the worst part. It was the recovery was just the worst. But um, yeah. So segueing off of that, what kind of challenges? I guess what would be the single greatest or most significant challenge you guys have faced um, in your bodybuilding career relative to that, and then the follow-on to that would be how did you overcome it? And Mike, if you probably have injuries from football that might be easier to reference because you
I'm
probably
actually
learned
really
lesson.
lucky. I almost never had any injuries.
What?
Yeah, I think I had a really small concussion with the Steelers. Like it was a one-on-one in practice. It was like very small. Other than that, I don't think I ever had concussion symptoms. Yeah,
Oh
I
man,
was I was pretty lucky.
I've been
And
living
then
life wrong.
I never had a surgery, never had a tear, never had a break, nothing. Yeah.
Oh shoot.
But it's funny because like there's some football players who play with like just reckless abandon, like
Yeah,
no self-preservation whatsoever.
yeah,
But I didn't really like to hit, like it wasn't fun like bashing my head into something. I like
yeah,
the result of like a good play. So I was conscious to not like put myself in bad positions. I know some guys just throw
Yeah.
their bodies around, but I tried to like not be an idiot,
that's why I never played football a day in my life. And that right there is, my cousins, they all played. One of my cousins played for JMU. He was on, according to the papers and everything, he was on track to head towards the NFL, but then he blew both of his knees out. He wrote books about it and all this kind of stuff. Because for him, that was school was just there. It was all about that. Football was really everything. Growing up, that was everything. And so um I I played soccer and basketball. So there was none of that. Now martial arts, that's a different story, but we'll skip that if unless you guys want to hear about that stuff. But Joe, you've definitely had injuries. I remember you mentioned from BMX and dirt biking, you broke bones.
Yeah. I broke my hand mountain biking. I busted my knee up once mountain dirt biking. I had to get a surgery.
Yeah,
The hand wasn't too bad. I missed the whole race season for mountain biking, which sucks. It was like the first race of the season.
yeah,
But I was in college and I had other things to focus on anyways. It was just like a club sport.
yeah.
So I was too busy going out to parties and I had a cast on my hand and it was a great talking piece with girls. Oh, how'd you break your hand?
Oh man.
So I had
Priorities.
yeah, it wasn't too bad of a recovery. The knee kind of sucked a little bit, but again, I didn't really injure it. I just kind of punctured it, and the cut was real deep. So they said I definitely introduced some like air and potentially bacteria into it. So it was
Oh,
just a cleaning, but I didn't tear anything. I did shatter my kneecap a little bit. I guess they had to pull a couple bone fragments out, but it honestly wasn't too bad. I was just kind of laid up for a little while, like a couple weeks, and then I just got back to doing what I was doing. I don't think I really ever rode much after that. I did a couple like woods rides, but I never got back on a track trying to do jumps and stuff. But as far as bodybuilding goes, I've never had anything bad. Like, I've had you pull a muscle in your back deadlifting when you're doing, meathead stuff when you first start lifting or, some tendonitis in the elbow, but nothing crazy. So
yeah.
I guess I've just been very lucky.
James, that you too? Am I the only knucklehead in here?
No, Dom, you're not. So
Oh, dang it.
back in 2015 or 2016, I was actually training legs at Armbrust Pro Gym. I don't know if you guys have ever been
Yeah.
there. And
Not been there, but definitely know
Never
about it.
been there.
Wheat Ridge, Colorado. It's one of the best gyms for bodybuilding you'll ever see. It's got its own room for legs. Like there's nothing in there but leg equipment. And I was in there in 2015 or 2016. This is like 3 or 4 weeks after a show I did back then. And just like you guys were saying, the knucklehead trying to throw some weight around, and it's 3 weeks after a show, and you're like, oh, I could put 315 on a squat and just like treat it like it's no big deal. And
Yeah.
one of
Your
the
connective tissue is nice and nice
yeah.
and loose and not dry and tight.
So
So
I do a set with it. I can do like 10 reps. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this again. And the second set, the second rep down, I go to the bottom of the rep and I just hear a huge pop in my knee. I'm like, okay. So I put it back and it just felt really unstable. It didn't really hurt, but the next like day, that thing was so swollen and I was limping around for like a month or two and I never ended up getting it looked at, which is probably dumb.
Jeez.
And and I can probably suspect I had a torn meniscus or something like that because I wasn't able to train legs properly for quite a while after. And now I don't really have any issues with it, but I know that I definitely did something, and I hope it healed itself. But that's just the transparent thing with me. I never really got that looked at.
That's
what'd you
crazy,
do in
man.
the meantime while you were like rehabbing? Did it drive you crazy?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was limping around, and I was working construction at that time, so I had to like walk around a job site, and I'm like limping around, and people are like, "What happened, man?" Yeah, just like, and it's just yeah, it was not fun. So, yeah, that was 2015 or 16, it's quite a while ago, but yeah,
That's wild. Yeah. Uh, well, dang, I guess I'm gonna be the guinea pig. Um,
Yep.
so I've had a number of surgeries. I don't even know if I should talk about one of them on here. It was had nothing to do with training and everything to do with like a crazy ex-girlfriend.
sounds about
We're
right.
all allowed one, okay? The irony is I was like 20. She was 11 years older than me. Um, that's how I rolled. So yeah, I'll skip that one because you guys, that's gonna hurt you in here. It was bad. I'll put it this way. I had to go to the OR at like 1:30 in the morning after days of trying to fight this. Like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll be better tomorrow. And she's like, uh, we gotta go. Like, uh,
He got stabbed. He got OJ'd.
yeah. The irony in that statement is she actually did pull a knife on me.
Oh
I
my
tried
God.
to
Oh
break up with
no.
it, but the problem with pulling a knife on somebody who at that time was heavily involved in competitive martial arts is I was so excited about it in my head. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what to do with this. And I did. And I took the knife and she just crumbled to the floor. But anyway, I don't want this to turn into therapy. People are going to get the wrong idea. The biceps tendon rupture was probably the only bodybuilding related injury. And, I've had, like you said, Joe, the tendonitis and
Yep.
a little chondromalacia in the left knee. I think it was chondromalacia. It's hard to 100% confirm that. I think I'm trying to remember. I know I had an X-ray. X-ray is not going to do much for that. Um, but we treated it as such. So ortho did hyaluronic acid injections. I did one, but the ortho and I are cool. So I told her, "Hey, I've was taught previously how to do intra-articular injections. So I've been injecting BPC in my knee joint. So I've been doing it anterolaterally, and she's like, "Show me how you did it." And I showed her. She's like, "Damn, yeah, that's it. You're good. Keep doing it."
So
That
good.
that BPC, and I think I was doing TB 500. Um, I know it's anecdotal, but for me, that made a crazy difference. I got one hyaluronic acid injection, and my knee was I was pushing weight again, and I took my time doing it because I was want to be very careful. But I'm doing everything like I could before. Now I'm not squatting outside of like hack squats and maybe pendulum squat. But hip pressing and leg pressing, and I'm putting weight back on the hack squat again and not having any knee pain. Um, but yeah, the biceps rupture was for me. I was not anywhere near. This was 2014 or 2015. So I hadn't even started with a coach. I was just doing my own thing. And when that happened, I couldn't fly anymore. I got med down. And so all I had was time on my hands, and I couldn't train for a while. The recovery was worse because I'm not gonna crap on military medicine, but when you go to your PT, the DPT is like, yeah, this is awesome. He said, we don't get to see this. My PTAs and my PTs don't get to see this very often. In fact, they've never rehabbed someone with this.
It's not a good sign.
That was not what I wanted to hear. So during the entire process, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, they're going to rupture this shit again. This is it. We're going too far. How do we know? How do they not know if we're going? How do they know? Are they pushing me too fast? And so I was mentally, that's where my head was. But when I was started getting back in the gym, the overcoming aspect, the most significant thing was, I'd say there's twofold. One, I just wanted the idea of not progressing or not growing or not being in the gym was just not that wasn't an option. The other half of it was I was realizing my training was improving because I had to connect this mind muscle connection concept was playing itself out because I couldn't use a lot of weight for a while. And so I was like, how can I get the most out of this without doing, 100 reps for everything? And so um, that was probably the biggest thing for me was the injury taught me something. And the same thing when I had surgery on both legs actually. Uh, One was as a teenager, and I started to learn more about, oh, I can feel this with less weight. Then I got, I turned 17 and 18 and forgot that lesson and decided, well, Ronnie Coleman is putting 24 plates on the leg press. So what am I doing? So yeah, uh, that's good that you guys didn't go through any. That's awesome because I remember seeing guys. I knew I had torn my bicep when it happened because I watched it happen in the gym at the YMCA with another dude doing
Oh,
preacher curls, in fact.
mm.
I was right there and it happened. And so it seems like those injuries are just commonplace. Um,
It's one thing that people don't think about. Like, you guys have heard the term before, man makes plans, but God laughs. Like that's exactly what it is with the sport, man. We train, right? How much we train, right? Any day you can train, you can injure yourself, and it could be it. I mean, we have seen multiple high level bodybuilders, not reach where they could have because of injuries. You know what I mean? And the first one that comes to mind is Kevin LeBron. He tore his pec. Flex Wheeler got in a car accident. There's multiple guys that they could have, should have been better, but injuries in the gym limited that, right?
yeah.
So it's a big deal. And Mike, being a doctor, like he probably knows, that it's hard to come back from that kind of stuff because he's involved in that rehabilitation stuff with some people, right?
Yeah, definitely. And not only it's like the physical aspect, I think it's that mental aspect
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
Do you ever trust the arm again? Do you ever trust the knee again? Like, you can't really fully push yourself again, it seems like, when you have like a catastrophic injury for sure.
Yep.
Very, very true. At least in my case, it took me years. In fact, everybody is talking about BPC now and TB 500. I first took it back in 2015. because of this. Because they military ain't going to give you that, and they certainly weren't going to give me anything else. I asked. I was like, growth factors or growth hormone, or anything. Like, he just laughed. He's like, yeah, I can't do that. I was like, well, tendons don't repair themselves the way with the same level of integrity they had when they started. It's never going to be the same. But there are things we can do. And so they're like, no. So I had actually tried that back then, and that was night and day. And within weeks, I went from painful curling on my right arm with anything close to 35 pounds to curling like I won't say like it was 100%, but within weeks it was a massive difference. And that was a year. It was a year after the surgery. I remember now. Because I remember the gym I was training at and everything. And I remember going in there one day. I was like, well, let's see how this goes. And I was like, oh my gosh, it doesn't hurt anymore. Which was, mentally a huge boost of confidence. But you're right. The mental block there until that moment kind of came, I was like, what am I gonna do? Yeah, I don't want to tear this thing again. And anytime I get tendon pain now, first thought that goes through my head is, okay, nope, can't have this happen again. Um, so yeah. So James, you mentioned, Kevin Levrone and Flex Wheeler and Sean Ray and Lee Priest. And it made me think in terms of, who's influenced us in terms of how we train and our nutrition and things like that. Um, Mike, was there anyone or even multiple people that had a big role in terms of, or a significant role in terms of influence in those regards?
For training, especially, yeah, definitely. Like early in my career, obviously it was more football, things like that. But in terms of a bodybuilding sense, honestly, one of the first people who got me into bodybuilding was Callum von Mager, or Mager, however you
What?
say his name. Yeah. I
Same
remember watching
actually.
his videos. I was like, damn, like, dude, looks good. He's having a great time training. Like, he's just having the time of his life. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
That's
getting
crazy.
And
getting
like, I
filthy
started
pumps
watching
every
his,
day.
yeah, he was just like having a great time. And I mean, he looked awesome too,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was like right when I was done playing football. So I kind of was getting in that bodybuilding mindset. Then I honestly really started watching Wesley Vissers.
Yeah.
Learned a lot from him for sure. How to like go from being an athlete who just trained so explosively and was just like, just training for power and speed to how to actually like bodybuild. That was a really tough transition for me in the beginning. So I learned a ton just from him to how to actually be like a bodybuilder and frame things differently mentally. And then somebody else I really like is hypertrophy coach Joe Bennett. I
Yeah.
like his stuff too. I know Terrence Ruffin works with him a lot too.
Yeah.
I like a lot of his concepts. I think he's really smart in the way he speaks and talks about like biomechanics and leverage and understanding load and all that stuff. But he also speaks in a way where it's understandable. So I think he's great too.
Yeah.
And then I guess like with us all being tall, I've always kind of drawn more towards taller athletes. So I like watching a lot of other taller guys train. So that's usually what I like to watch.
Dude, that one, you got me with Callum, dude. I hadn't even thought of him in ages now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Joe, how about for you?
Dude, I'm the exact same. I swear to God, Callum Von Moger and Bradley Martin is what I watched when I first started getting into bodybuilding. And I took a trip out to California, went to Venice Golds, and Callum's there. I got to meet him, and he was super cool. And
Um,
then I think I competed like 8 months later after that. So yeah. And then who else did I used to watch? Oh, I used to watch RX Muscle like religiously, and I watch it still, just not quite as much. But I really like listening to Dave Palumbo too, because he went to med school, so he says. I believe he really did. I don't
So
know.
he
yeah,
says.
he
Yeah.
he's
And but he's really well spoken. He seems to understand all the mechanisms behind how drugs interact and stuff like that. So yeah.
nice. How about for you, James?
Mine's like a blend of everybody. Like I think when I first got it started, it was the pumping iron. So I mean, watching Arnold and those guys train in the 70s was so cool because Arnold was a tall guy like us, right? So it was definitely him. And then as we got into it, starting around 16, we've talked about this back in like the 2000s. That was when Obviously, Kevin Levrone, I keep dropping his name. He's one of my favorite, but him for sure when he's blasting Creed in his YouTube videos. And then you can't leave out the GOAT, Ronnie Coleman. Yeah, buddy. Like
Yeah.
you can't tell me that dude did not inspire like a whole generation of people training in the gym, regardless of form, regardless of, whatever, you
I knew
know.
about his videos and I didn't even lift weights.
Yeah.
Like just like middle school, like watching, going on YouTube and shit. And like you'd find Ronnie Coleman and like, this is guy's crazy.
Time to bleed.
Yep.
But yeah, just Ronnie and those guys. That was definitely it. It was a mix of old school and
Mhm.
kind of older school, I guess now.
Yeah. Man, that makes me feel old, dude. It's like, oh yeah, I guess that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. All the scenes from the videos are playing through my head. Even the statements he would make that didn't, as a sentence, didn't actually make sense, but it was like, I don't care. Um, how you do that then? It's light. That's why. It wasn't what he asked. He was asking how. Yeah. So I think everybody's off season right now, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So um this might be a heavy question. Well, not heavy, but maybe a longer loaded question. Uh how lean do you think an athlete should stay in the off season? And how much weight gain per month do you think is realistic for somebody who's advanced? Because it's two different ends of the spectrum, right? And I don't know how we define advanced. I don't think I'm advanced, but it's easy to define the beginner. So what do you guys think in terms of that? It's like, how lean should you stay when you're in the off season? Like I know back in the day that was the thing. Like Lee Priest, pizzas off season, everything was on the table. KFC, McDonald's, and he would be. I saw him on stage giving out trophies in his full blown off season, and he looked like a snowman. Uh,
I think
start,
it kind
start.
of depends on your genetics a little bit. Some people like I couldn't do what Lee Priest did. I don't think I'd gain any muscle, and how I would probably lose so much muscle trying to get back down into shape. But as a general rule of thumb, I would say you should probably be able to somewhat see your abs, kind of see some somewhat separation in your quads. Your upper body should be pretty detailed. You should be able to have some veins in your shoulders and your biceps, and maybe a little bit in your chest when you're pressing or something like that. And then as far as weight gain goes. I think it probably depends on your weight, but let's say you're like somewhere between like 220 and 270, something like that. I would say like 2 to 3 pounds a week at most. Something like, 1 to 2% of your body weight a week is probably fairly reasonable. But again, you got to be doing your weekly check-in pictures and make sure that weight is good weight. Your waist shouldn't be blowing out. I just recently started having to check my waist every week because he wants to make sure as we continue pushing that my waist isn't getting bigger because I can get my chest and my shoulders and my lats bigger, but if my waist is growing at the same rate, then the ratio is pointless, you
Yeah,
know? So
yeah. What do you think, Mike? How's that look for you?
Well, first, Dom, I would definitely say you're in the advanced category.
Mhm.
Definitely in the advanced category. Um, but I definitely think you should have abs, at least to some degree.
Yeah,
Obviously, some people have more ab development than others, but like shouldn't look like a turtle shell or anything. Like
yeah,
Mhm.
a good way to think about it for sure. I think everybody's different though. It really has to be individualized. Some people can sustain more fat, other people have to stay a lot leaner. I think it comes down to like the context of your body weight and your fat percentage in your training. Like, is your training suffering? Are you still making progress in the gym, or are you starting to kind of just be stagnant? Like, do you have digestion issues? Or are you actually hungry for your meals? If you're just like getting a little bit thick and you just can't eat your food because you just feel so disgusting, it's probably not going to be doing anything for you. You may have to be
Yeah.
somebody that stays leaner. But like somebody like me, like I'm like a fat kid at heart. I can just eat all day. So I've never missed a meal in 30 years. Not because like I'm that disciplined, just because I'm fat. I just want to eat. Like I never understood when people, oh, I forgot to eat. I'm like, I've been thinking about this meal for the last 3 hours. So
Yeah.
it's just easy for me to eat. Um, so I think it's all under context, and I think at least for me, I'm somebody who likes to prioritize the training because that's like the fun part of bodybuilding for me.
Mhm.
So if your training starts to suffer or isn't improving, then that might be a sign that you're gaining too much fat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
James,
then in terms of numbers,
oh,
um, again, I think it comes back to the training. I don't think there's any specific number. Like, I think if it's an extreme amount, like you put on 15 pounds in a month, yeah, probably something's off there.
yeah,
But again, it has to be individualized, I think.
definitely agree. James,
You know, we're tall individuals, right? So I think you guys would probably relate to this, but when I was growing up, I could eat literally whatever I want as much as I wanted, and I could not gain weight.
No.
I'm talking about whole pizzas. I'm talking
Boxes of Oreos.
Ben and Jerry's,
Yeah.
like being I could not put weight on. I was 6'2" and I was like 190, 185 or something like that when I was a senior in high school. I could not put weight on. It didn't matter how much I ate. And um, my metabolism has always been super like aggressive. I don't know if that's just my genetics or whatnot, but like it really took me, like we were talking about this on previous episodes, but like the force feeding, it really took me like dedicating myself to, look, I'm not going to get bigger unless I eat a lot.
Mhm.
That's when I finally changed and I was like, okay, I really have to push this. I have to push the food to grow. So finally, when I did that, and then supplementation got involved, and like all of those synergistic things happened, that's when I really took off and got bigger. That's when I quote unquote filled out. You keep hearing that from everybody. Oh, you're a tall guy. You got a great frame. You just got to fill it out. And it's like, oh, it's that easy, right?
it's not.
And that's like a 20-year process. I heard that when I was 16. Oh, you got a great frame. You just got to fill it out. And so to answer the question though directly, I think it's an individual case by case basis.
Yeah.
So there's some individuals who they don't have the discipline to eat in an off season uncontrolled because they'll take it too far. They don't have that type of discipline. I think there's people that can probably be a little bit more aggressive in their off seasons and they can push the food and they can push the weight and they can get up to 300 pounds. They can get over 300 pounds and then they get back in shape, right? Is that the best way to do it? No. Is it the most healthy way to do it? No. But at the same time, you can't be shredded all year round and expect to have bigger legs your next show or a bigger back your next show. It's not going to happen. So I think it's an individual case by case basis based on your genetics, your metabolism, your self discipline, and your ability to get in shape when you need to. If you're somebody that like conditioning is an issue for you when you compete, you probably should be pushing weight in the off season. If you
Mhm.
have a conditioning problem where like you don't show up in shape, you don't show up peeled or on, any of those things, like then obviously you don't need to be probably pushing the weight that much. I think it's all up to each person and how they react and their different attributes.
Yeah, I agree. It's highly individualistic and customized to that there's different people, right?
There's stuff I can get away with that I guarantee some other people can get away with.
Yeah,
There's stuff that maybe Joe or Mike can do that I can't do.
yeah,
It's all based on the individual.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I think that said, if somebody was watching this and and I just had to generalize, my take is part of what Joe said is 100% that you got to be aware, right? And in order to have that level of awareness you need to make the progress you need or want to make, you got to check in with yourself, right? If you're doing this on your own and you're self-assessing, if you don't have some kind of gauge or metric by which to do that, you're just gonna willy-nilly how I feel, and that's not gonna work. I always look at things in terms of what can I measure, and if you can, weight is an easy one. but the visual is also another easy one. All you gotta do is, get up in the morning, video. I do videos, but photos, videos, or whatever. If you do that week to week, you can see. But Mike, you nailed the other half of it. It's performance. If my
Mm,
performance is waning, then somewhere something is wrong, especially if I'm not in prep, which that's a whole nother story because I really don't think prep is. I like what Kai Green said. He said when you're in prep, for some reason, people seem to think that you're supposed to get weaker right away. It's like, oh, well, I'm in prep, I'm getting less food, so I must be getting weaker. Because somebody asked him this. He's like, why would I? They asked him, are you getting weaker now? You're not pushing as much? He's like, why would that be the case? Um, I think there is to a certain point, you're 2 weeks out. Okay, that's different. But somebody telling me, um, yeah, I'm 8 weeks out. I'm pulling back on the training because I'm just not as strong. Well, then something is probably wrong somewhere else. Performance is usually is one of the things I use as an indicator. Um, so yeah, I agree with you guys though. I think we're all on the same page. It's very individual based.
yep.
Um, so I don't want to keep us too long because I talk too much, right? So you guys got to stop me. Nobody ever stops me. Like, Dom, shh, hush. Um, I had some other questions in here, but before I jump to those, you mentioned. So I saw something. How do I want to approach this?
I think I know what he's gonna do.
No, I'm not going to do. All right, all right. When we talk about supplements, everybody understands there's different types of supplements, right? When I say supplements, right now I'm referring to actual over-the-counter vitamins, minerals, that kind of deal. Someone put something out there, and it bothered me because I I I spent a lot of time learning about certain things, and this was one of them. Um, Supplements, vitamins, minerals, they have assigned upper limits in most cases. Not every case. Some things don't have an actual upper limit assigned to it in terms of how much you can take. But most things do. And we're in the winter season. People get sick. It's flu season, as it were, and all this kind of stuff. And I hear people talk about, hey, just dump all that vitamin C, somebody said an amount, man, I'm gonna get in so much trouble if they see this because they're gonna know. I'm not trying to call them out. A lot of people do this, but telling someone to take 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C with every meal, if they're eating 5 or 6 meals a day, that's too much vitamin C, right? You're gonna. I remember I had to learn this stuff in school. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Ooh, I remember the worst one," because it's always the most nasty ones that stick with you when it comes to like health science shit. So, one of the symptoms of a woman having too much vitamin C? Vaginal discharge. Ooh, that doesn't sound good, and I bet you it doesn't smell like oranges. So I'm like, dude, you don't want to tell people that because now you have somebody taking 6,000 or 8,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and they're wondering why do I have nausea and I have all these GI issues going on, or I have X, Y, or Z going on that's associated with this. And that is another major metric by which I'm looking at if I have. So I'm lightly touching coaching, right? I have a few clients. If I get a check-in from someone and I see anything under the GI assessment that is deviated from the norm or is wrong, I am immediately honing in on this. Like we got to fix this because this will bleed over into everything else. It will bleed over into nutrition because now I have to worry about absorption. It'll bleed over into performance because if you're not getting the nutrients you need to drive the performance, we're going to have a problem. Um, a host of other things. I'm gonna just leave that there. If anybody has a comment to get me off of this.
Yeah, I
Definitely too
mean,
much vitamin C.
Yeah. How, is that, do you think that's too much vitamin C, Mike?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like it's too much of a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. And,
Yeah.
and and that's the key, right? Everything can be bad for you if
Yep.
You take too much.
Water can kill
Um,
you, right?
Water can kill you. Yeah, water poisoning is a thing.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
something.
it's a supplement, right? So it's a supplement to your diet,
Yes.
right? So I mean, you can name a bunch of different supplements, but I'll say this one, whey protein, right?
Yeah.
Whey protein has its purpose, but like you're not supposed to be pounding 3 or 4 of those things a day, right? But so, well, I can't get in, my meals, so I'm just going to do that. Well, you're having 3 or 4 of those a day. That's going to be a
Someone
little.
tried that diet a few years back, if I remember, and they quietly changed back to whole food, if I
Yeah,
remember.
it's a supplement to your diet. That's what people seem to
Yep.
forget.
There's a
Yeah.
Dave Palumbo story there. So Dave was eating 12 meals a day, eating 12 meals a day. He was drinking, I believe he said 4 of them. And he was on his way to the gym and he had to he was trying to get his meal in, but he was
I've
not,
heard this
his
story.
body wasn't having it. And his body said, I reject this meal in its entirety, and it went on the dash in the windshield. Okay. I believe he said he still finished what was in the cup. Um, I've done that once. That has only happened to me once. It was not with Chris. If it had been with Chris, I would have been in so much trouble. And he would have never allowed this to happen. But I I was just not able to get my meal down, and I refused to miss a meal. So I took the chicken and I took the rice and I put it in the blender and I added water
Yep.
and I went to drink this mother out of the blender. It hit the back of my throat and it came right back out into the blender. And I looked at it and I'm like, nobody's around to see this. It's going down. And I just threw it back in.
Yeah.
I got it down. I said, never again. Never again.
Did you use warm water or cold water?
It was room temperature water.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
if you use hot water, it's like chicken soup.
Oh, that's a
Not
good, yeah.
not quite,
Exactly.
but it's a little better. You can convince your body it's chicken soup.
Nice. Yeah, never doing that again. But yeah, that's the supplement stuff, and you make a good point, James. They are supplements, right? But there's something that people don't understand generally, and that is supplements and dietary intake are not the same in terms of how your body is processing it and how they're actually processed anyway. They are not the same. Um, there are certain things I can have somebody eat a ton of sweet potatoes. All right. I can have somebody eat pounds of sweet potatoes across the day. Are they going to suffer from too much beta carotene or too much vitamin A? No, their body can actually process it. But if I give somebody too much of the supplement version of that, of too much actual vitamin A as a supplement, you see this with vitamin A based products, retin-A's and other kind of things, right? If you give them too much, you can do severe damage and they will be hospitalized, right? It can be dangerous. Um, some things you get flushing, and that's about the worst of it. Some things can put you down, and some things you might not notice anything. But too much of anything is just that. It's too much. It can hurt you. Um, so moving on. Sorry. Uh I'm gonna ask one for me because I want to learn always, and Mike knows a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna just take advantage of you, Mike. That
All right,
sounds
let's go.
terrible. No Diddy, Pete, whatever. Uh I want to know this from each of you guys, but I want to start with Mike. You've given a lot on your social media, but what are some good tips that you've used or that you use with clients or whomever to grow your back or any other muscle group for that matter, but back or legs is usually the one that people focus on for us. Um, that you've seen the most uh gain from.
So yeah, I think especially as a taller athlete, usually back and legs are the two problem areas. They're just very big. There's a lot of real estate you have to add to.
Yeah,
And the biomechanics are always a little wonky. I think something too is most gym machines are not made for people that are like 6'1" and up.
yeah,
Like a lot of times you kind of have to rig stuff or work it a little bit differently. Like some brands nowadays are a lot more customizable, but like some of the hammer strength stuff, some of like the old like Life Fitness or some of those other brands, even Arsenal and sometimes, it's
Yeah.
just not really made for taller people. So, if you're trying to do some sort of lat row on a row machine and you just can't really get even in the right angle, it's not really going to be doing all that much for you. So I think some of that comes back to the machines. But I think as a general rule of thumb, tall person, short person doesn't matter. I think proper biomechanics are very important. I've noticed that with myself. Like I had some real bad scapular winging for probably years at this point, and I've really made it a point to improve that. So I can actually keep my scapula in the right area to let my lat be the main mover.
Yeah.
So that's helped me a lot. I think the other thing too is filming as many sets as possible and trying to be objective and like looking at your form. You know, I think too often, you're just excited about moving the weight just because it's fun. But if you really want to grow a specific muscle, you have to make sure the biomechanics are actually working properly and you're actually keeping tension on the muscle you want to train.
Yeah.
The other thing too is with legs. Um, I think for most people, especially taller guys, like hack squats and pendulum squats are so good. Those are usually your bread and butter movements, and being able to keep tension on the quad the whole time and not just like popping in and out of the bottom position.
Yeah.
Like, especially because all of us are big and strong, it's so easy to just go down there and stand up. Like, just put as much weight, like, we'll move it eventually, But are you actually moving it with a quad contraction, or are you moving it with like a stretch reflex? Are you popping in and out of the hole really quickly and like catching on the quad, or are you actually using the quad the whole range of motion? That realization has helped me a lot too. Like, are you actually flexing the muscle, or are you just popping through the movement? Especially with legs too, because you can kind of just get down there and get out quickly.
Yeah.
So those things have made a big change for myself and for clients too. I tell all my clients that training is usually the biggest indicator that they're going to make a change in their physique. Like when you take your training from like, subpar or average to like really good to elite, that's when I see the biggest changes in people's physiques. Because it's one thing to look at a plan and say, okay, we're going to do a top set and a back off set on a hack squat. And it's another thing to actually do it the right way that actually tax the muscle and make it grow. Then all the other stuff comes in, diet and supplements and stuff. But are you actually training the muscle the right way? That's usually what I think about.
Yeah. That dude, for legs for me, that was the biggest change this off season. I mean, I've only been training quads once a week. They outgrew probably everything. And that was the biggest difference. I'm only doing top set and back off set typically. And not only am I super controlled on that eccentric part, but right out of the hole. Like when I'm fully extended, right? The leg is fully extended. I shouldn't say it that way. The way that is easier to understand. Legs are almost locked out on like hip press, for example. Just use that as an example. When I come back to start that eccentric phase, that moving my quads back close to my body, I am intentionally fighting it at that point, not coming out and then slowing down more. I try to keep it at the same cadence or pace the entire time on the way back, because I noticed one of the things I used to do is it's easy to, all right, I've gone through this concentric part, I've moved the weight, now I'm going to come back for whatever reason, it was easier to come out a little bit faster and then slow down. And now I'm fighting that at as soon as that motion starts. And my quads grew way more than I don't know, I want to say I meant to, but expected them to, even with that lower volume and frequency. So yeah, that definitely agree with you on that. If you guys, how about James and Joe? Have you noticed? I know for Joe, you switched to coaching with CJ. Has he
Yep.
changed a lot of stuff for you in that regard?
Dude, honestly, my quad days not as brutal as my own self-inflicted uh, protocol for quads used to be.
Yeah.
Um, and it's typically like you guys do. I do it like a top set and then a back off set. They both usually have like a rest, double rest pause or some kind of drop set to as an intensifier,
Yeah.
especially if I'm training by myself because I can't get forced reps. Um, but the thing that I've really focused on is one, slowing the reps down, like you said, and on that eccentric, like say I'm doing like a hack squat or something, like I can go really slow on the eccentric, but still not really feel my quads working. I don't know what I'm controlling that weight with, but what I've noticed is in my head, I try to think about sliding my feet forward and it like puts the weight on my toes almost a little bit. Because like if you think about like when you're doing like ab and thigh and you want to put like that weight on that like toe and kind of slide your foot forward, it brings your quad striations out. I'm thinking about kind of doing that, and that somehow like just ignites my quads, and I fight it the whole way down, like you're saying. I'm fighting it. I'm really like trying to barely let it go down, and then nice pause. I feel like that maximum stretch uh, pause and then explode up and just really try to drive everything through the quad. And it's just, I don't know, Kai Green's mind muscle connection, right? It's really learn how to use that muscle. I'm a little more bro science about it more than like thinking about the biomechanics. I'm just trying to think about, am I feeling it where I need to feel it?
Yeah. James, how about for you?
Joe just took my thunder, so I was actually gonna bring up mind muscle connection, and he beat me to it. But no, that's what it is, though. I mean, like, that's what I attribute my not success, but like my progress to. A lot of it is just the mind muscle connection. Like when you're training back, I think back is actually probably the biggest one because you can't see it, right?
Hmm.
So having that connection, mind muscle connection to that body part that you're working, and am I feeling it there? Am I feeling a pump in that area? Like,
Yeah.
because
You
that's what
should
it's
have a
all
pump.
about,
Yeah.
right? So if you're doing rows or something with back and you have a pump in your biceps, you're probably not doing it right. You
Yeah.
Mhm.
know, and same thing with legs. If you're training legs and you have a pump in your glutes and you don't have a pump in your quads, you're probably not doing something correctly. So it's really just having that mind muscle connection, like Joe was saying, and really just focusing on that body part that you're trying to improve. I mean, you can, you know, beat yourself to death with a bunch of workouts, but at the end of the day, if you're not feeling it where you're targeting it, it's a waste of time.
Do you guys
I
change your
agree.
cadence depending on how you're feeling sometimes? Like, I like to mostly I do slow and control, but every once in a while I just feel good and I'm like I'm gonna move some fucking weight and I'm gonna speed it
Yep.
up a little bit, not like out of control, but I'm gonna throw, you know, 5 or 6 plates on the hack squat. I just feel fucking good today. And it's like every once in a while you just get one of those days and you're like, I'm gonna move some weight a little bit more, not be quite as scientific about it. And I don't know.
I want to crack a
Yeah.
joke, but I'm scared of who might see this. You know what? I'll edit it out if I think I need
There
to.
we go.
I saved those for Halo days. Um, no, yeah, I'm very careful about stuff I say for probably obvious reasons.
Mhm.
When it comes to that shit. Yeah, days like that, I do it, and I usually think, man, I probably shouldn't do this,
Yeah,
but
feels good though.
dude, this happened like last week.
Hmm.
Um, there was a power lifter friend of mine there, and I was like, hey man, since you're here, I want to go grab these 160s. Because I haven't been doing dumbbell pressing. I've been doing a lot of machine and then Smith machine. So I was like, you know what? Today just feel like the Lord spoke to me when I walked in. And you know, there was a day when I was moving 180-pound dumbbells, and I'm like, I want to do that sometimes.
Mhm.
So I did it. And then I thought, man, what if I had injured myself? Would it have been worth it? Would I have looked like back and been like, would I have had the answer that Ronnie had of, man, my only regret is I should have done two more. Or would I be thinking, damn, that was dumb. Um, but I did it, and I know what you mean. Like there's days where you
Yeah,
just feel like, yeah, man,
got a little more intensity in you for some reason. I don't know
yeah,
where it comes from, but.
I feel like Mike for sure. I've seen you pressing, dude.
Oh yeah,
And just for you guys,
yeah.
just so you know, he's freaking huge. Okay. I think you're the tallest of all of us for sure.
I'm just under 6'4".
Okay. So you're up there with Joe. You
We're
guys are
all in
like,
the same weight cap then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
256, right?
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, 256.
dude. Yeah. When I saw him at Golds, I was like, that's him. That's him. It's like yeah. Uh, I
The
was
funny
like,
thing,
yeah,
Dom, is like, so I'm easily the biggest person that goes to that gym. You know, like when you go to a gym for long enough, you kind of know how big everybody is. And I look over and I'm like, that dude is massive. He does not go here. Like that guy doesn't come to this gym. I walk past, I'm like, oh shit, it's Dom.
yeah. No, dude. He's being humble and very, very kind. I'm telling you, I was in there with Taj. Taj was, taking photos and stuff, and he wanted to work out with me. I was like, yeah, man. And I remember when you left, I was like, damn, dude, you should have got some pictures of him, man.
Mhm.
But yeah, James, is that do you I feel I can feel it because I've seen your training videos too, James. I know you being at New Tech Gym probably makes it even harder not to have days where you're just like, I'm gonna rip this mother.
Yeah, I mean, you got people in there that are pretty motivating, and you got guys coming from all over the world. It was really bad around Olympia time because you had everybody you could
Oh
think of was in there. I mean, Ramon Dino was in there, Wesley Vissers was in there, Carlos de Oliveira was in there. I mean, it was like, dang, Ronnie showed up. I'm like,
yeah,
what the heck? And now it's not that as bad anymore. I mean, you still have the resident pros in Vegas there, but yeah, there's days where I go to the gym and I'm like, man, I really don't feel it today, but I'm gonna, give it what I got and actually have some of the best workouts you ever had. You know what I mean? And some days you go in there thinking you're gonna lift the world, and it doesn't turn out that way. So it's kind of funny how that works. But I will say this: I've never regretted a workout.
Mhm.
I've never regretted a workout, no matter how crappy it was or the commute or any of the circumstances. That's one thing I can honestly say is I've never regretted a workout.
dude, I like that.
Yeah,
I have never thought about that.
me neither.
Even the bicep tear day, I don't look back and regret it.
Nope.
Um, I learned a lot from it. It helped my career massively. I am thankful that I'm not a pilot out there flying some, a P8 or whatever, because for reasons that won't make sense to you guys, I'm glad I went and shifted over to Intel. Like everything, even in that workout, it all worked out better. I learned a lot from it. And there have been no other workouts outside of that that even I can even begin to think of that, oh man, I wish I hadn't trained that day. uh yeah, maybe I need to think more about it, but off the top of my head when you said that, I was like, damn, I've never thought. I don't think I think I feel the same way.
That's a good perspective for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, um, we're almost at an hour and a half, and I did it again, this whole thing where I just you guys failed me. You were supposed to stop me. Um,
I
so
got a quick question for Joe.
yeah,
Yeah.
So,
What's
Joe, you
up?
competed in Dubai. What was it like competing overseas?
It
yeah.
was cool. The flight sucked.
The flights.
Um, it was rough sitting on a 12-hour flight. They're giving out three full meals that look delicious, and I open up my backpack with a Ziploc bag of chicken and rice and got to eat it and then stare at my girlfriend who gets her meal and then my meal right next to me. But competing overseas was cool, and it was pretty awesome being, I could say I was the only American competitor at the whole show. Um, it wasn't my first time to Dubai, luckily, because I would have been going crazy peak week, not getting to see the sights. I had already seen them, so I was like kind of sequestered into the hotel room the whole time. But it was a good experience. I got to train at Oxygen. I got to train at B News. They were like awesome for the competitors. They let all the competitors at the show train for the week for free, so I didn't have to worry about day passes or anything like that. Um, and it was, the show day was like any other show, other than Dubai puts on a crazy show. The stage was massive. They had like fireworks and this massive expo, and it was wild. But like as far as the way the show was run, it was just the same as anything else that I've ever done, and it was a good experience. I definitely would recommend doing an overseas show. I think it's fun. It's nice, even as hard as the travel was, it was fun to say that, I did a 13-hour flight, kept on point with my water, with my food and everything, and was able to still, bring my best look ever. So it was just another thing to like say that I learned and was able to do. And now it's not as scary trying to, do a long flight and travel.
That's awesome. But that, yeah, dude, you looked really good there.
Yeah, it was cool. I will say also, being out in the desert, a lot easier to get dry.
How did you, all right, one last question. How did you do your meal stuff, in terms of that flight? What did you do maybe different from, I mean, Oconus travel is fairly simple, but
Yep.
you had to go through customs and you had to deal with all that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I had pretty much, I think I had one meal left with me when I landed. So I didn't have like an absurd amount of food with me. I
okay.
checked a bag of frozen chicken. I like cooked like 6 or 7 pounds of chicken and checked that just so I figured like I know that there's like Uber Eats and like DoorDash and delivery service for groceries because I had been there before. I know the grocery stores are everywhere. So I wasn't worried about getting food, but I was worried about like the time from landing, getting squared away into the Airbnb. Am I going to miss a meal?
Yeah.
Also, because there's an 8 hour time difference and I was on a 12-hour flight. It was like kind of weird to like coordinate all the meals. CJ did a good job giving me meal timing. We pretty much just ate every 3 hours.
Yeah.
Um, but the food was no problem. They didn't give me any problem with the Ziploc, or I did vacuum sealed, so it was all kind of professional looking. At least it wasn't leaking or anything. And then as soon as I got in the Airbnb, I found the closest grocery store. We Ubered over there. I actually wanted to go in person and pick some groceries. I didn't know how good they'd be at like doing the delivery service.
Yeah.
But then after that, I kind of got a little more comfortable once I had like a stock of food there, and I just started getting delivery service, and it was great. But I had an Airbnb. I keep saying hotel, but it had a full kitchen. I made sure I booked something with a full kitchen. I just cooked all my food fresh, so I had like all my potatoes cooked, all my rice cooked, all my chicken cooked, and I had my rice cakes, my honey, my dates, whatever he was having me eat for the carb up. I had everything stocked and ready to go. So yeah.
That's good to know, man.
Yeah, yeah, it was no problem bringing food on the flight at all. So the hardest part was honestly getting the water in because, like, you know how much water we're drinking,
Yeah.
and like I had to get up a lot to pee, and I don't. I usually will just try to sit through the flight and like tough it out, but you can't do that. CJ's like, you got to get all your water in. He's like, do not fuck up your water. Don't, get your food in. You have to stay on point on this flight. So like, I was making sure I was getting every ounce of water in, and then like every 40 minutes, 30 minutes, I had to get up to pee. So
You
it was a good
couldn't
excuse
tough
to
it
stretch
up. You
the
couldn't
legs.
tough it up and just, insert a catheter and,
Yeah,
gag.
right.
Wow.
Yep. We also watched the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy on that flight.
Jeez. Oh,
Yep.
yeah. That's a lot of flying then, for
It
sure.
was. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Mike, did you have any questions for any of us before we sign out?
Oh
Any
man,
words of wisdom?
we covered some good stuff here. Well, I was definitely curious about the international
Yeah.
show because
Yeah.
I've always seen shows that are in Europe, and I'm like, damn, like the stage is like awesome, the
Yeah.
crowds are crazy. I'm like, I definitely want to do one day.
The
Yeah.
crowd at the crowd at Dubai was wild. There was a ton of people, like
Yeah, like
1,000
they
people
take
there
bodybuilding
watching the show.
super seriously. It
Yeah.
seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd highly recommend traveling for a show. I think it's cool. And if you time it like the end of your season, like I went to Italy after that and did a 2 week vacation. So I was like already in that side of the world. And then, I gained a little bit of water, I will say, but it was a little hard to walk the first days with the edema in the ankles from all the pasta and gelato, but it was worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a little vacation after sounds like
Yeah,
smart. Yeah,
exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, that's on my list. I definitely gotta do an international show, like Mike
Yep.
said.
Yep.
Well, dude, we appreciate you coming on, man. Definitely gotta do it again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'll come on anytime, and I love talking training, love talking bodybuilding. like what's better than this,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Only thing better than this is I'm about to go to the gym. It's a late one.
Damn.
So I'm gonna go have some fun, and then I gotta stop by my job and pick something up. That won't be fun. But other than that, dude, we again, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
Got a
thanks for
lot.
having me,
Yeah.
guys.
Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, very
I've
nice
got
to meet you.
questions already geared up for next time for you.
Awesome. Anytime you want,
These guys know. So I don't get picked on by Joe this time. I typed it up, so you can't
Oh, look
talk
at
about
that.
my handwriting.
It's about the same size as your handwriting now.
Yeah, I put it in like 10 font.
There we go.
Cool, dude. Have a good one until we see you again. Hopefully, we all can get on stage together at some point, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
That'd be awesome.
I just, I need some time to catch up. So